So how does an overseas student take the test, and how long does it last?
So there are 4 components to the test, and I think one of the things we want to make sure people understand is you don't have to take maths and English and non-verbal and verbal reasoning on the same day.
Yep.
And actually very often if you're in a UK prep school or a UK primary school, they will take 2 at a time to give children a break.
Yeah.
So they don't have to be taken at the same time on the same day, although many do. There are 4 components that are each sort of individual modules of the test, and they are all online. So if you were to go into a test centre and say we were doing maths and verbal reasoning today, you would sit down. Your test centre, an invigilation centre, that can be your school. It can be a place that we trust with an agent or a company that you work with. So it has to be an approved ISEB centre.
Yeah.
You will sit down, you will be logged in with your personal details, and that's important. Your date of birth will go in because the test is age standardised.
Okay.
This is really important for parents.
Okay, yes.
Because what this means is, you know, if my daughter's born in October, so she's quite old for her year, but her best friend was born in June. Now, actually, when you are 10 or 11, that gap of 9 months could make a difference. So this test is actually based on the month of the year in which you were born, and it's standardised to ensure that everybody's at the same level. So it doesn't matter when you were born. Within the year, you will be on a level playing field with your peers, which is very important.
So with that, in that regard, the test is adaptive, is that right?
Yes.
During the test it adapts.
Yeah. So not only is it age standardised, which is great, it also means that once you start that test, and it's all multiple choice, as I say, you will click the answer A, B, C, D or E. There's always 5 options. Once you start the test, you will have a few questions that will allow the computer to understand which level you're at. And then it's what's called adaptive. Now that means you don't start at the beginning and finish at the end, and questions gradually get harder. It means that the computer will keep understanding 2 things. Are you answering accurately, which is good, but are you accurate consistently? And so often one of the misconceptions about tests like these is they're like a test of power. You have to answer as many questions as you can in a certain period of time. Here, if the computer has determined, and the algorithm's very robust and accurate, that you have finished, the test will finish. Because there comes a point where the computer knows exactly which level you're at. And it doesn't matter if it asks you 1 or 1,000 questions, your level won't change.
So it's done its job.
It has, and so don't be afraid. The other thing that adaptivity means, so it means that every time your child answers a question accurately, and consistently, it's making a judgment. If you have a test, let's say you had test 1 to 10 and you got question 3 wrong. Now, in a linear test, as they're called, your question 3 is wrong forever. And that determines your mark. Adaptivity can support children being distracted or not really knowing that question, because it can recover from that. Because what it will do is question itself. The computer will say, oh, they got that wrong. Does that mean they don't know this? So we need to test at a different level and then go up? Or did they just get that one wrong, click the wrong thing? So adaptivity is brilliant because it means that even if you answered a couple of questions wrong, it wants to check how consistent you are and you can recover from that. And I think that's a really important message. Whilst testing can seem scary and pressurized, adaptivity is about being able to give every child the opportunity to walk into that test and know a couple of wrong answers will not make a difference.
How extremely clever, but also extremely fair.
It's hard maths.
Yeah. But it's fair, and I think the truth will come out at the end, the real score.
And I think that's why all of these schools use this, because if anybody asks me, obviously I won't give you the algorithm, but if anybody says, how do we know that your maths test is good? We've had a whole bunch of academics, I've got the data on that, and interestingly this year we were able to give all of our schools a table which shows how consistently that test is performing. And again, I think that's advantageous for international students coming in, because actually this test is based on outstanding data, and schools use it because it's reliable.
I'm sure. And the point I always make to our parents is the school wants that student in the school. It's not a test to catch people out. It's not a nasty test where they're hoping you fail. They want you in their school. They are just trying to determine if that child is suitable to their school.
Yeah, and I think that's such an important point to make. It's obviously, as we're designing tests and making sure everything's fine, all of those schools we've mentioned, just as I know you go and visit and get to know the schools, we do the same. And there is not one of those schools where I've sat with their admissions director or their head and they've said, yes, this test is about making a list. Actually, every single one has said, when you're doing this, can you make sure that any messages you give are about the fact that the test is an aspect of telling us something about academic achievement and potential in 2 subjects.
Sure.
And we know that children have abilities in a range of subjects. So show us if you're musical, if you are sporty, because this test gives us a snapshot. And every school to which you are applying that uses this test thinks the same way. They would love a report from your school. They would like to hear who you are at an interview. And actually all of these schools are wanting to offer you a place. They are looking to say yes.
Indeed. And as good as your test is, it's not the only test.
No, and
There's
it
the
shouldn't
interview
be.
and school reports
And who
a
you
number of
are.
things, who you are and what you as an individual can bring to the school. And are you suited to life in a boarding school, away from home?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing I hear most often is that the test is a starting point in a conversation with pupils and their parents about understanding you're going to be happy here.
Sure.
They want children that are going to really love the ethos of the school and be happy. And again, I know it can feel disappointing if there's just one school that you're dreaming of, but actually all of these schools are amazing.
Sure.
They do things slightly differently, and it may well be that the ethos, values and culture at a different boarding school is the place where you are going to be your best.
Yep.